to try to push back against regulation, when I came out of Cal Poly in 1980 and came home, started farming with my dad, I could see, growing up on the farm, things were much different. As I was a kid growing up and watching what my dad did, nobody was really looking over his shoulder, and you just kind of went out and you farmed. But starting in 1980, you could see that there was a lot more regulation coming down the line, and going and having to get permits to get your pesticide permit, and then you went into burn days, and you had all these different reports you had to fill out and different ways you had to store chemicals and all that. And it was all fine, except there was a disconnect sometimes between the people that were regulating you and those of us that were getting regulated. And a lot of that was driven by folks that were driving up and down the road, and they would see us out putting maybe an oil compound down to keep dust off of the dirt roads, and people were turning us in because we were polluting, or you were burning your brush in your orchards and people were complaining, and so you were spraying and people didn't like the smell or anything else. And so we just saw regulations starting to be ramped up, and so I got involved in Farm Bureau because I saw that as the one way that I could get directly involved to try to impact some of those regulations that were affecting us. We have a lot of great organizations in California. I mean, a myriad of different. We have our commodity organizations, which are very commodity specific and very necessary, and they're expected to really focus on what happens in their commodity area. And some of the different trade associations, it could be Western Growers, is excellent at focusing on what they do, and what they do is do well. But I could see we need a real broad organization that can reach into every county and cover every commodity. Not be the sole representative by any means, but have a feel and a touch for all the different commodities in the state where we can pull together when we need to. Things like the Williamson Act, it's going to affect everybody in the state. And so as a walnut grower, I wouldn't expect the Walnut Association to go out and spend a lot of time defending the Williamson Act. But they could maybe assist somebody else that was doing that in some form or fashion. The Cattlemen's Association clearly gets involved in the Williamson Act because it's so important to their range and the folks and what they pay in taxes. But a lot of other commodities don't get, groups don't get that involved in it. And so today, especially with so many of the way our districts are set up and our representation of the 120 folks that sit in the state legislature, more and more of them have no connection to agriculture. But the Farm Bureau, we have 53 county farm bureaus, so we can reach across the state. 2 years ago, we had a timber issue. Well, there are very few folks sitting in Sacramento that have timber in their district. And so if you don't have timber in your district and somebody comes knocking at your door and say this is a big deal for timber growers, it's like, oh, let me look at my constituent base. I don't have any timber growers, see ya. And so you can't get anything done. And I wouldn't expect the cattlemen, I wouldn't expect Western Growers, I wouldn't expect the cotton folks to get involved in a timber issue. But the California Farm Bureau can, and we can reach out to our county farm bureaus and say this is really important to other farmers and ranchers that have timber as one of their crops. And so we can reach out to their legislators in their districts, and all of a sudden they're getting a phone call from someone saying this is a real big issue for us and we can get things done. And that's why having a strong general ag organization like the Farm Bureau, to have a very effective and a strong organization, not to compete with other organizations, to be additive.